They rolled out the banner, they dimmed the lights, promised Roman candles, election night. Said stand back folks, this one's huge, budget boom with a harbor view. They said historic, they said bold, said watch this city turn to gold. Drums were pounding, sparks would fly, thought we'd see that skyline cry. Oh, they sold it like Guy Fawkes on the waterfront, like thunder rolling down Lambton Key, like the sky would split above the beehive, a technicolor destiny. But we got a used packet of sparklers, half damn, two bent in half, promised the scandal worth the fireworks, got a backyard birthday laugh. They hyped it like the harbor was burning, like the heavens would explode. Turns out it was clearance, been promises on a cautious council road. They said more points getting sorted, more point wastewater treatment plant and neon lights. We're fixing pipes for generations. Cue the patriotic bites. Three waters renewed, they cried. Historic songs, civic pride. 14 councilors standing tall, one mayor smiling. That's all. You ran a mouth like a standing ovation. 14 and 1 in perfect sync on the budget for three waters renewal. You think the sky would blink, but we got a used packet of sparklers, fizzing out in the breeze. Promised the festival of detonations, got polite applause and tease. They framed it like revolution, like the pipes would roar and glow. Instead it's duct tape optimism, moving carefully slow. They showed us glossy fly through dreams, bike lanes shining in sunlit beams. Wellington City cycleways mapped in gold, safer streets, the story told. But somewhere between the hype and vote, between the headline and the note, the fuse got trimmed, the powder damp. Now it's sparklers at the camp. Light the fuse, count it down, 10, 9, shake the town. 8, 7, brace the blast. 6, 5, hold on fast. 4, 3, watch it glow. 2, yeah. Is that it? We wanted rockets over coordinate place, echoes across the bays. Instead we're squinting to fade little stars that fizzle in 30 seconds blaze. You sold us scandal level fireworks, city shaping budget breaking heights, but it's just 14 councilors, one more and some very responsible nights. Next time don't promise the harbor ablaze. If it's sparklers you plan to supply, we can handle a quiet reform. Just don't sell us a 4th of July. They rolled out the banner, they dimmed the light.
And welcome to tonight's Order Paper podcast, where we've got to decide whether it's the 5 weeks of a scandal or you've been sold a packet of used sparklers.
Wow.
Well, if we listen to Ryan Bridge from Herald Now, there is a big scandal going on at Wellington City Council in 2021 with then independent, not yet Green, councillor Tamitha Paul. However, here's what gets interesting. If it's a scandal with Tamitha Paul, it implements every other elected official of that council at the time.
Dude, I have no words. I don't. I
know, and I mean, like, put it this way. There are some times where you've got to sit down there and sit there and basically point out that, we've had our issues with Tam, but Tam was very, very unfairly treated by Ryan Bridges, and Ryan Bridges ain't the same Ryan Bridges when he was student rep of Paraparaumu College in 2005. Yeah, I know. That was when I was at Paraparaumu College.
Right, fix that.
Yeah. Yeah, so, we've got this great scandal here, and this is what Ryan Bridges, get the right Bridges in there.
Both of them suck.
Oh, yeah. So here's how we go. Okay, so we've got a lovely scandal here, and we'd like to see who's implemented in the scandal where the councillors put cycleways ahead of there. So let's sit there. First up on the list, we've got Mayor Andy Foster. No, we call him Uncle Andy. Well, guess what? Andy was a member of New Zealand First at the same time. So look, it's not just a Green Party scandal, it's a New Zealand First scandal. He is now a list MP in New Zealand First. Now, we've got Deputy Mayor Sarah Free. She was the Green Doors councillor for Mutakarangi Eastern Ward, and and she did it. Now, Sarah did step aside and become an independent councillor in 2022, and now she is a regional councillor in Greater Wellington Regional Council in 2025. So we established it's a Green Party scandal as well, according to Ryan Bridges. Now, let's sit there and get out. We've got Terry O'Neill, was a councillor for Mutakarangi Eastern Ward, who is a Labour Party councillor. Now, Terry is retired from politics at the great age of 27. Quite young for someone to retire from politics, but I mean, Nico was about the same. So she's been in place. So now it's a Labour Party scandal. I mean, put it this much. I mean, go for that. But wait, there's more. We've got Sean Rush. He was a Wellington Party candidate. Well, actually, we called them National and Drag. He was a councillor from Mutakarangi Eastern Ward. And guess what? Great friend of the show. Sean later resigned his membership from the National Party and joined the ACT Party and stood for the OT election in 2023. So now it's a National Party scandal and an ACT Party scandal. And he's now currently residing in Doha because his expertise are in oil, in the environmental planning for oil drilling. But wait. As Susan Paul says, there's more. My former local councillor, Freya Fitzsimons, is caught up in this scandal, according to Ryan Bridges. And here's the great part is, okay, so she was elected as a Labour Party endorsed candidate in 2019 for Kawa Southern Ward. Now, at that point, no, I was not a councillor. I was living in Kandala at the time. But I think I think you might have moved to Wadestown by then.
2022?
No, I think 2019 you were living in Wadestown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, put it this way. Okay, so Fleur retired in 2022 and then she stood for the Labour Party electorate and unfortunately lost the Rongotai electorate seat from Paul Eagle's 20,000 majority to Julianne Genter. She then later was elected as the secretary for the PSA. But wait, there's more. We've got another Green Party person in there in the scandal. My favourite councillor, Laurie Foon. You know, and hey, I really like Laurie. She is the most loveliest person, but she's been caught in the scandal as well, according to Ryan Bridges. She has been councillor for Paikawakawa Southern Ward since 2019. She was appointed as deputy mayor under Mayor Tory Whanau, and then she restood again, and she was also known as the Kit Cup Queen, who makes sure that she has at least 2 Kit Cups in her bag for when she goes out and buy coffee from local small businesses such as Bean Here Limited, as she did last Sunday at the Island Bay Festival. Kit Cup, and she had a coconut latte. But wait, as Susan Paul says, we got more. We got Hannett, then Green Councillor for the Pukehina Lambton Ward. Now, just to let you know, she was dumped as the Green candidate in favour for Tamitha Paul. She restood as an independent in 2022, and she decided to not stand for re-election in 2025. She was a councillor, I believe, started in 2007. It was one of them Wellington's longest-serving councillors. Now, we've also got Nicola Young. Now, technically, she is an independent, but hey, she is the daughter of former Minister Bill Young, the only national MP who made Miramar go blue, and he was a minister under there. So you can say it's more of a National Party scandal. She is, and she is still a sitting councillor to this day. And but wait, we still got more in there. We've got this lovely. So not only have we've got this lovely independent councillor called Tamitha Paul, who, as she got elected as councillor, was the outgoing president of the Victoria University of Wellington Students Association. So now it's Tamitha Paul's managed to drag this into 2 different organisations to have a scandal, according to Ryan Bridges. She was also headhunted for the Green Party for the nomination in 2022 for Pukehina Lambton Ward, and then she later resigned as councillor when she became MP for Wellington Central in the 2023 general election. Now, but wait, as Ryan Bridges says, there's more of this scandal. We've got this lovely person called Jill Day. Now, she was an independent councillor for the Takapū Northern Ward. You know, now she hasn't completely left Wellington politics. She is currently the chair of the Tawa Community Board. However, she is also the president of the Labour Party. I know. Now, you know, but wait, we still got more. We got this guy called Malcolm Sparrow. Now, he was nicknamed the Mayor of Tawa, and he was an independent candidate for the Takapū Northern Ward. He also resigned in October 2021, just after the date that came 12 months before the election, to circumvent having to call a by-election to have him, done. But wait, we got another candidate. Now, this is when this political party, this scandal gets so big it includes political parties not in Parliament. Now, Jenny Condy stood under this Yimby Future Proof as her party, but she was a member of the Opportunities Party. So see how they're starting to get across multiple political parties? I mean, the only party we haven't come across yet is the Party Māori. So yes, now she did fail to get re-elected in 2022, and she was a list-only candidate in 2017 for the Opportunities Party.
Right.
We got to sit there and go on there. Former neighbour, I should say, of Kandala. She didn't quite live next door to me, but she lived not far by, and Diane brought it in there. But we've got Diane Calvert. She is the councillor for Whanangi, Onslow, Western. She's been councillor since 2017. But apparently, she's also part of the scandal. And then we've got this guy called Simon Wolfe. He was an independent councillor in 2019 for Whanangi, Onslow, Western. He later stood for Greater Wellington Regional Council and has been on there ever since. We've also got this lovely Labour Party candidate called Rebecca Matthews, who was a Labour Party candidate in 2019. She later stood again for the Labour Party in 2022, but then was dumped from the Labour Party and sat down there and gained Green Party endorsement for the 2025 local body elections. So, as you can probably see, it's probably the most widening political scandal out there.
Yeah. And for anyone who's just joined us and has no idea what we're on about, you may have heard about the Moa Point wastewater dubbed craptastrophe. Yeah. Everything broke. All the sewage has leaked into the water behind the Wellington airport. And there is a rahui on the entire area because it is not safe. And Ryan Bridges has decided that it's all Tamitha Paul's fault. Because
it's not just Ryan Bridges, so has Sean Plunkett. But at least Sean Plunkett probably has a little bit more of a say. He actually lives in Wellington.
Yeah. But trying to blame it all on Tamitha Paul for choosing cycleways over pipes, which...
Who also, if you sat there and looked at it, 9 of those 15 people in there also voted to increase the cycle lane budget. But the great thing is here, on the Autopad podcast, is the lovely thing we call facts.
Yes.
So, now, I'm just going to be trying to work out. So,
it's a little bit little.
Oh, that's
it might be a little too big.
Yeah, no, because that also is quite weird how it's crossing across the screens. I'll put that over there on that screen. Okay, so here's some interesting things. So this is what you love to have when you have a lovely thing called a long-term plan. Now, I've just got to check this. Now, Diane Calvert, thank you for at least helping me out to say that there are some things in CapEx spending in here. So this one is operating spending. So actually, we will zoom it out a little because we need a bit more room in there.
Yeah.
Okay. But so this is the governance planning, but that ain't related to what we are. Let's get to the environmental spending. Now, environmental spending is what is covered for the which covers free waters for the budget for Wellington City Council. And I mean, this is about, the budget they're spending each year in the total over 10 years, because long-term plans always talk about 10 years of what has been, so this is basically going into different things that have been done here in the, you also see there's a section for the botanical gardens in there, road corridor growth, so that's trim trees, hazardous tree removals. There's income from hazardous tree removals. Oh, they must fine people for doing stupid things. Got environmental grant pool. So, that comes under the environmental spending. You learn something new every day. I learned something. There's pest management. That's also comes under there. Now there's waste minimisation. So that must be things like to deal with recycling, that sort of stuff. Oh, there's income from the tip. That's also mentioned. That's great. Now, here's what we've got. Water reduction and conservation. Now, these figures here are in millions. So, for what is planned for network operations for water management is $104 million. It's $104 million is planned for the operating budget for water maintenance over the 10 years in 2021. The so-called smoking gun scandal that Ryan Bridges has brought up. The connections, that must be revenue for connecting to the water mains, which that's going to bring in $520,000 worth of income over 10 years. Pump station operations, looking at spending $8 million across 10 years over pumps. God, we spent a lot of money in Wellington. I mean, this doesn't include La Harbour Upper Hutt. There's water asset stewardship, which is would be $356 million over 10 years. Water monitoring and investigation, so making sure there's no E. coli in your water. Gee, it's great when you read stuff that comes in. Water purchase, which is what we pay. In Wellington, the regional council technically sells the water to the city council. It's just because the way we Wellington, because we have four councils collect the water from the same source. So yeah. Now here's the waste part. So there's some income. So there's some income for it, but they're looking over 10 years. Is for asset stewardship is $275 million. The operating cost of it, and maintenance of about $65 million. and monitoring about 10 million over 10 years. And also the waste minimisation. There's wastewater treatment plant. They're looking at $273 million over 10 years. And now the sludge minimisation plant. Now this is the interesting one because this is one that Tamif has been bought on, despite the 14 other people you saw there, all voted and supported the sludge minimisation plant. Laurie Foon is the brain. She had the portfolio that covered it at the time. So I mean, if you can see there, the operation of the sludge plant is doesn't kick in until was it year 5, which is 2026, which I think this is the year the levy kicks in. $3 million. So about $3 million. I mean, it's still in the building stages at the moment. Yeah. There's also stormwater asset renewal. There's drainage maintenance. There's stormwater for Zealandia. Yeah, so that's definitely going in there. Now, let's get over to the lovely thing called transport. Now, this is where things there. Now, in that particular one, we had it on 175%. So let's go up to 175%. Because, there are claims we're spending a ridiculous amount. So these are operating ones that goes in there on road maintenance. We get income for road maintenance. Most councils get 51% funding for much of the stuff is from Waka Kotahi, which comes out of the fund that pays for you pay your petrol, your road users, your taxes that go into it. So there are things that are in there about maintenance that goes on for curb maintenance. Now, here's the part that we've got the scandal. I think we found some scandalous stuff here.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Over 10 years to do cycleway maintenance of $303,000. Look, we found a scandal of $2.3 million in cycleway maintenance. Oh, how much are we spending on road maintenance? Oh, $30 million.
Yeah.
And that's just to fix the potholes. That doesn't include other things like tunnels, that sort of stuff. Cycle lane asset management. Okay, now that's got a big one of an operating cost of $164 million over 10 years. So just remember, so this amount of money is drop in the bucket for like 1 to 2% compared to what it costs to sit there and do water management.
Yeah, but you also can't forget the nearly $9.5 million for cycleway planning.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, hey, look, Wellington Council spent $1.5 million on bus priority plans. So it's like bus lanes. I mean, that's spending $7 million over 10 years on the cable car.
Exactly.
Don't know why there is no income looked at in for years 6 to 10. There's no income for the cable car. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. They're not paying him income for the cable car there. Oh, look, this is what they spend on traffic signal maintenance. So that is making sure the bulbs work and the traffic lights and all that. The maintenance of traffic light. Oh, heck, they spend over $10 million across 10 years on it. Well, actually, no. Total operating cost is about $17 million, but we get a Waka Kotahi subsidy for that. So yeah, look, they're spending more money on traffic light maintenance than they are on cycle lanes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I have no words for how stupid.
They're spending the budget is spending $20 million on traffic road markings over the same period. So that's making sure that your white lanes are painted right. That is more than what they're spending on cycle lanes. But hey, that ain't a scandal, according to Ryan Bridges and probably Sean Plunk. Sean Plunk puts too much of the stuff behind the paywall.
No, because that's for cars. Cars are important.
Now, there is some stuff here about let's get Wellington moving. I mean, obviously, they've done some of the stuff. I mean, there's parking enforcement. Oh, heck. to enforce parking over 10 years is going to cost the council $203 million to enforce people to make sure they're putting money in the meters. But guess what? They net in an income, I hope this includes fines as well, of $508 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then somehow waterfront parking services is separate. What?
Yeah. Now there is now here's something. So here's something else that also goes in here. So this is operational expenditure. This isn't capital expenditure. But let's sit and take a look at this graph here. Now, so this is in the 2021 long-term plan for Wellington City Council that Ryan Bridge is trying to tie a scandal on Tamafa on that's collective of head councillors. They are spending 35% of the total rates budget over 10 years on free waters infrastructure and 16% on transport, which includes spending more money on maintaining traffic light poles than actually cycle lanes. Now, this is the capital expenditure. Now, capital expenditure is a little bit different. That does get a bit more interesting. So capital expenditure is something that I can get in there. So they're spending on environment and infrastructure 21%, and on transport they're spending 25%. Okay, that makes sense. You know, you might build a couple of new roads with housing subdivisions that might go in there and all that sort of thing. You might sit down there and put a new brick lining through the Corey Tunnel, that sort of thing there. So if we sit there and go into here, now I'm just going to scroll up. So I've got the CapEx tab open, and so this is what's the one that goes spending on the. So this is CapEx. Let's zoom that up to 125. So CapEx spending over 10 years. Includes things like land purchases, that sort of thing. There's park infrastructure. So that this ain't cycle lanes yet. Money being spent. Oh heck, they're looking at spending about $23 million on the botanical gardens over 10 years. It's not bad, really, if you think about it. It's a beautiful garden.
Do you think they included the begonia house in that?
Yeah. But that would also be at a point before it actually kind of hit problematic points. Yeah. So go for it. Actually, I will send you the link in the chat, and you can post that. You can sit there and make sure you can post that, so people at home can go and read this and actually have a look at it themselves. You know, so this is volume 1 of the long-term plan of 2022. So this is out 2021. So this is Andy Foster's long-term plan as mayor. So there's going through there. There is money spent for capital expenditure on the tip. So they're looking at the stage 4 extension of $35 million. And there's another one on there. So about $74 million is going to be spent on Southern Landfill. Now we're up to some juicy data.
Oh, yeah.
You know, water renewal data. So they're looking at tank renewals for water there. They're looking at spending. Oh, okay. So this is 2021 figures. Okay, so ignore the top. The top bits were previous LTP spends, and obviously what the budgeted were, and as now if that now. It looks like they've increased the budget on there for 2024. Makes sense. For this one, which is stormwater or wastewater? They're looking at total network renewal and upgraded growth of renewal, which is repairing broken pipes. They're looking at $193 million over 10 years. And to put in brand new infrastructure, which will be like connecting new housing subdivisions, putting in brand new ones, they're looking at $137 million. Still haven't found a scandal yet. Stormwater upgrades, they're looking at, So growth, so that will be putting in bigger pipes in there. They're looking at $31 million over 10 years. Stormwater renewal. They're looking at 51 million. Yeah, it's definitely, there's zoo renewal. Oh, yes, because that's in there. There's venue renewals. Aquatic facilities upgrade for the Givealittle pool. We got Diane Calvert's pet project in there. $1.5 million for the Givealittle pool. And don't sit there and tell off Diane Calvert. She, this has been a big thing in it. She's been pushing for years, and I absolutely support her behind that. Other aquatic facility capital expenditure. So there was a big budget of spending. I don't know if they actually spent it in 2023. They budgeted for it. But I mean, this is budget. This ain't necessary expenditure for earthquake resilience for the aquatic centres. And also some park renewal, sports fields upgrades, astroturfs for different areas. There's money being spent on the Basin Reserve, some money spent on ASB Sports Centre. We've got the marina for those who like their fishing in their boats. Clyde Marina? I'd like to know where the hell Clyde actually is, because there's a school named after it, but there's no street called Clyde.
That's the one.
Is that where what used to be the overseas terminal?
Not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's the one down by the bottom of Mount Vic, like that end of Courtney Place, that marina.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's that one, because that's Clyde Key School.
Yes, yeah. There's also got there's also things about renewal of libraries. There's social housing renewal, some work done on community centres, which, to be honest, they've done a good job of the Newtown Community Centre. Actually, I'm going to see if I can make that, if that can. Yeah. So that's in there. There's waterfront development, including Frank Kitt's playground that's in there, and the garden redevelopment. Emergency management one that probably includes Arrow Valley Hall. There's waterfront renewal, Central Park. There's housing investments, earthquake risk mitigation. It's a lot of money being.
Probably had a moment.
Go ahead.
Because all of those activities said 20 something. I was like, this is the year they're planning on having it done by, and then I realized that's not how that works.
Yeah, no, these are budgets. Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing: is you have since then we've had another long-term plan, which is Tory Whānau's long-term plan. We've had 4 annual plans since then. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is asset renewals that goes in there. So we're in transport now.
Yeah. So
new roads. Oh heck, there's some budgets for some names. Oh, Mr. Alex is absolutely going to love this on here. So, Alex, if you want to sit there and do that, they've got budget money on Woodridge, the Lincolnshire, Markev, the Lincolnshire, Tyre, Upper Steblings, Petone, Granada Link Road. There's money put into long-term plan in there. Markev to Granada North. Oh, heck, that will be handy if that connected up. Saves me joining the motorway at Sherman Park to pull off at Tawa. There's also Johnson's connection, which will connect the two ends of Johnson's Drive, which if you live in Johnsonville or Broadmeadows, you know what I mean. McClintock Street to link those two up. That's another one where the street's in two halves. And Oharu to Winchester. Oh, God, that would be great. But I don't think the residents of Sherman Park would like to have trucks driving down their road. But you never know. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. Emergency wall upgrade. Oh, heck, this is interesting about the Naya Gorge. Work on the Naya Gorge is now done. But see, this was talked about in there. Riding capacity upgrades, access to the ports and ferries, probably better intersections. Oh, heck, this would have been when it was talking about IREX. We found more smoking gun.
Right.
Cycle lane infrastructure. Over 10 years, $231 million. This is 179 of it is for total cycle lanes. There's minor work that needs to be, obviously, would have been in that one, would have been the East Corridor, which is the Evans Bay one, which is still, oh no, that corridor was now done, but that wouldn't have been at the time the LTP was done. And also they had to tidy up Island Bay. They also had bus shelter improvements. I thought that was a regional council job, but okay. Wellington City Council owns some of the bus shelters because they were part of the network pre-8. A lot of them are in Northland. So those, you know how like in Northland, like someone like the bus on one side, it's like every bus stop's got a bus shelter.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
They were back in the days when that would have been when it was owned by Wellington City Council.
Right.
Yeah, safer routes to schools, something that Simeon Brown might say is nice to have.
Ugh.
Yeah, traffic lights and signs renewal. Oh yeah, in case someone sits there and knocks down there. The LED light transitioning project. Oh heck, yeah, I remember when Justin Lester started that. It was one of his actual successors of Justin Lester.
Yeah.
God, we spent 30 minutes on this.
Wow.
Yeah, rural roads upgrades, speed management. So that will be speed management upgrades. Let's get Wellington moving, which we know is gone now, but at the time that would have been in the picture.
Yeah.
Now that's capital fund. Oh, okay, health and safety. Gee, there's a lot of stuff that's in there, but have you found like the fact that we're spending more money on maintaining traffic lights than cycle lanes?
Yeah. But no, the cycle lanes are the problem.
Oh, I know.
Obviously. See what I mean? Like it's so freaking stupid.
I know.
The whole debate that he thinks he has.
I mean, put it this way.
Biggest air quotes I can make.
So, whose fault is it? Andy's, Sarah's, Terry's, Sean, Fleur, Laurie, Iona, Nicola, Tabitha, Jill, Malcolm, Jenny, Diane, Simon, or Rebecca?
Oh no, I mean obviously it's only Tamitha's problem because it's only her fault because she was the big green name at the time.
Oh God, yes, yeah. But but you can sit there and say the political party scandal encompasses more political parties than there are in Parliament, and somehow has come out like that empty packet of used sparklers.
Yeah.
So for those who have got the poll on there, as had been discussed, we have a poll on our YouTube one. Sorry, it's not on our TikTok live. Is the Moa Point sewage treatment plant failure an attempt to link into Cycleways overspend scandal fireworks a scandal or a used packet of sparklers with no spark? Please get out and vote. But yes.
There you are, right.
Yeah, I know. I felt like I was doing a Rachel Meadow just then.
It's...
But do you remember some of those faces?
I remember a lot of those faces.
I know. Like, that was Wellington City's council highest female councillors in Wellington's history.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, Kiwi Skirt's given her opinion.
Yeah.
We got Jason's given his opinion. He also agrees with Kiwi Skirt.
Yeah.
Oh.
And also, totally agree.
We need better quality journalists, yes.
No, being in the capital, Wellington deserves better.
Oh, we need better revenue collection models. I mean, I found out today that Chatham Island's actually they're allowed to charge a tariff or a duty on goods imported and exported out of their island. Only council in the country that can do that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
I know. So, do you believe we've exonerated Tamitha along with her 14 other colleagues on Wellington City Council from the so-called scandal that Ryan Bridges started?
See, I don't think she needed us to do it for her. I watched that clip and she did a very good job of exonerating herself and her fellow councillors of the time.
Yes.
But yes.
I mean, hey, it's very interesting when you've got ACT Party candidate Sean Rush coming to Tamitha's defence.
Right.
It really says it really just shows how much shite there is out there if Sean Rush is sitting down there and help, coming to Tamitha's rescue. Not like Tamitha needed it, but that just shows how good that group of councillors work together.
But Sean is a very level-headed person.
I know. Actually, I posted that on the BHG Discord server, and someone said to go, "Oh my god, ACT actually has a level-headed person in their party."
Exactly.
Yeah.
He might actually be the only sane person in their party.
Oh, you speak my father, he does sit there and say Nicole McKee is also in that boat, but also at the same time, the bills that Nicole is doing actually are probably the ones that I don't see a future Labour government reversing.
Well, yeah.
Now, I wouldn't sit there and say about other bills, but that particular one, yes, I can say that I believe that particular, Who Courts Bill is one of them, and I do also believe the Arms Act, the Arms Bill, which is a full rewrite of the Arms Act, I believe will be bills that will stand the test of time. Actually, reminder, those submissions close tomorrow, and I'll be putting in my submission for the Arms Bill for the New Zealand SIS to take over the maintenance of our gun register instead of the police. You never know, Sean might have not renewed his membership.
Well, who knows? Go on then. Oh, if I suddenly disappear, Tom has the zoomies and he's pulled out my Ethernet cable.
Oh God! Oh, how nuisance!
I managed to get him to sit still for about 5 minutes, but he's just buggered off again. So we'll see how.
Oh, that's fun. So we've finished exonerating Tamitha and her colleagues on the Wellington City Council, including great old Uncle Andy. So let's get to our first bill of the Armed Force Discipline Legislation Amendment Bill. First reading. Thankfully, this one is available on Parliament's website. I rang Greg O'Connor this week because you can't get any of Thursday stuff. We have to rely on Kiwi Pulse for Thursday stuff. So let's kick it off with the Honourable and the first female Minister of Defence, Judith Collins.
Legislation Amendment Bill be now read a first time. I nominate the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee to consider the bill. In an increasingly volatile world, strong military discipline is essential for the operational readiness of the New Zealand Defence Force. Our armed forces personnel must maintain this discipline wherever they are in the world, whether here at home, offshore, or in combat environments. We hold our personnel to a high standard and they should expect the same from their military justice system. The current system is out of date with no substantial changes made since 2007. This bill modernises New Zealand's military justice system so that it is fairer, more efficient and more transparent. It amends key legislation underpinning the system. The Armed Forces Discipline Act, Court Martial Act and the Court Martial Appeals Act, along with other legislation. The result is an updated military justice system that is easier to navigate, that better aligns with developments in civilian criminal justice system. A wide range of behaviours is an offence in the military context, ranging from very minor offending, such as being late for duty, to very serious offending, such as assisting the enemy. While the current system works well for mid-level offending, it is too complex and too time-consuming for low-level offending. This distracts command from their core focus of delivering operational outputs. At present, most charges are prosecuted at summary trial. The bill introduces a new minor disciplinary sanction system to effectively address very low-level offending. This provides a fair and speedy alternative to the complexity of a summary trial. The bill also makes changes to improve the investigation of serious, complex or sensitive offending, including sexual violence offending. These changes will advance Operation Respect. the Defence Force's campaign to eliminate inappropriate and harmful sexual behaviour within the armed forces. Responsibility for serious, complex or sensitive offending will be transferred to the Director of Military Prosecutions to ensure it is dealt with independently of the chain of command and in a more streamlined manner. The current system relies on outdated investigatory powers. To address this, the bill updates existing search powers and incorporates powers used in the civilian criminal justice system. This includes new powers to search defence areas and carry out drug testing on members of the armed forces for disciplinary purposes. A new search warrant framework will provide judicial oversight of searches of electronic devices and empower military police to obtain production orders for documents from third parties. It will also allow for searches outside defence areas that are owned, occupied or used by a member of the armed forces. These changes will increase the NZDF's ability to investigate alleged offending while providing better protections for those subject to search powers. Other aspects of the military justice system are also strengthened by this bill. It amends the military bail provisions so that they align better with the modern civilian system. Much like the appeal rights of civilian prosecutors, the Director of Military Prosecutions will be empowered to appeal sentences. In addition, the Director of Military Prosecutions will have the safeguard power to appeal not guilty findings where the interests of justice require this. The bill also updates the powers of military tribunals and courts to deal with disruptive behaviour and contempt of court. A new scheme will be created to enable the use of national security information and proceedings in the court-martial and court-martial appeal court. The bill contains protections and safeguards that appropriately balance the rights of victims with those of the accused. For example, it significantly strengthens the right to a trial by an independent and impartial court by extending the right to elect trial by court-martial to most offences, increases the protection available to young people under the age of 18 and provides for the appointment of victim support officers in certain cases. To support a smooth transition, the bill will commence 1 year after royal assent. This will allow time to amend existing regulations, train personnel and prepare new Defence Force orders to give effect to the changes. The public and our personnel expect a modern justice system that upholds the reputation and credibility of the armed forces. The new military justice system will ensure the men and women of our Defence Force can focus on what they do best, which is protecting New Zealand and its interests. I commend this bill to the House.
The question is that
My question is, why is victim support only being offered in certain cases?
Yeah, or is it not offered at all in the military? That's what it does there, because the military does do things a bit differently.
Does do things a bit differently.
Yeah, see, even the good wife doesn't help the New Zealand military situation.
No.
Because the good wife brings up the US version, Judge Coon,
Exactly.
I think it is, who, what do you call it? It seems to be the recurring military judge character in that show. Yeah, it's, I did pick up a hitchhiker once as a former army captain.
Oh, wow.
He did sit down there and state, so there are some things the Defence Force does pick up on in place of the civil courts. Like if you bash your wife and you're in the Defence Force, you get put, you can be taken through the military thing. You can also get court-martialed within the courts if you lose your driver's license for, say, drink driving or demerits in a non-military fashion, especially if it affects your job being in the military. Yeah, because the military, they use the same driver's licensing system we do. I mean, there is no shortcuts whatsoever. You pretty much basically are all in everything. That your driver's license cost is across both of them.
Right.
Yeah, I wish we had Rob Golden here. He would be able to answer this way better.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be, it's a bit of an interesting one. I don't know. I can't really comment that much. I mean, I did do cadets, but that don't answer what's happening here.
No.
I mean, and that was like, how many, oh God. I mean, and that was like 15, 20 years ago as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, can I distract us with a funny story?
Go ahead, yeah.
Waitangi Day last year, me and a couple of the flatmates had gone out for a walk, and we'd never been out for a walk north of where we lived, like the area that we lived.
That was when you were in Murakama Square.
Yeah. So we'd never been up towards Trentham and stuff on a walk. So we decided, hey, let's do that, and we'll go and take photos, because one of the flatmates was trying to make a video game at the time.
Oh, yes, yep. Yeah, I think I can guess what happened.
And yeah, we got pulled up by the military police and had to delete all the photos that had anything of the camp in them because security reasons. Fair enough.
Yes.
And then they were like, if you want to do the touristy things, you can go and like check out the police canine training area and give us directions on how to get up there. Like the guys that we spoke to were really lovely and really understanding, but it's just a funny story.
Oh yeah, well that's the thing, is there? Like the fact, like if you drive down those streets, like the road's a public road, but the properties on it aren't.
No.
No, it's
like,
quite
the amount of Defence Force area signs in my neighbourhood is ridiculous. Like every other house has a Defence Force sign on it.
that means the Defence Force sign itself is owned by the what's it called? It's owned by the New Zealand Defence Force to rent to a service person.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because they've got different areas. Like I remember when I went for the Electoral Commission, I used to do all of the Defence Force areas for Linton.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so I got, and their one is a little bit more contained than where you are near Trentford.
Yeah,
but effectively, I got free reign on there, including one of the houses I knocked on. The person was a military police officer whose details for their electoral role wasn't up to date.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, I know. How ironic is that? And it was on the and it was at the time where the only list we were getting were that no one's enrolled at this address house. So it was an off-election year. So I mean, put it this way, I tidied up. I tidied up the northern half of the Otiki electorate and the southern half of the Rangitikei electorate. And one of them, I really tidied up Linton. Fiona, who was the registrar for Rangitikei, was tempted to send me up to Wairuru to tidy them up as well.
Sorry.
I was seriously considering it. Yeah. You go down on a Saturday morning and you get all of them at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see what Damien O'Connor's got to say so we get a vibe on how great or not great the bill is.
The motion be agreed to.
Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I was just saying to my colleague, I think this is the first defence speech I've made in this House. I've been here a wee while, but anyway, it is an honour to speak on behalf of the Labour Party and say that we will support this bill. I have been in this House for some time, and I guess, as we all do as Kiwis, we keep an eye on the armed forces and the military, with the people who dedicate their lives, and put them at risk to support our country in many, many ways. And just want to acknowledge them. And I guess the progress that has been made, not just in areas of technical expertise, but I guess the collaboration among the three forces, which is something we should acknowledge. And I know the Minister and the Chair has done an outstanding job in leveraging some money out of her colleagues anyway, so they're likely to see a big increase in resources. It is absolutely essential that that money is spent wisely and supports the young men and young women who go into the forces. This piece of legislation amends, when I look back in the notes I have here, some legislation that's been around for quite a while. And times change, and we learn from time to time. And so I was looking up a case that I can recall, HMNZS Canterbury, which goes back to the early 2000s, and I can remember it kind of floating around Parliament, accusations across the House, and in broad terms it was inappropriate behaviour, the boys' club, kind of stuff being ignored, driven by alcohol, and actually, in reality, the risk when you put a lot of young people together anywhere, might be in a rugby club, it might be in a boarding school, I've been part of that from time to time, or if you put them on a ship or you put them offshore in an army base. There is a need for discipline. There is the temptation to kind of layer up, and that particular case in the 2000s, early 2000s, did highlight the potential for, inappropriate is probably the right word, but some serious misconduct that was occurring. And so changes were made, I think, in culture, but what this piece of legislation does from the notes that I have here is it makes the legislative changes, brings them up to date. And things like search powers, which would have been, I guess, going into a locker on a Navy vessel or in a barracks somewhere to search what might be in the locker, now means being able to get access to electronic data that might be kept on a device. So, look, Labor supports the need to upgrade this. As I say, in summary, it modernises the legislation. I was reminded as I was walking at Waitangi the other day, here was a Ford Ute and it had military police on it. And it kind of just reminded me, you don't see many of them, but a reminder that actually wherever the military operates across the world, and this legislation will apply to New Zealanders, wherever they are in the world, there's a police presence and oversight within the military. That doesn't mean they have a separate system of legislation and rules. They still have to abide by New Zealand legislation when it comes particularly to serious offences. But, you know, in military there might be minor misconduct. You might be late for a parade. Hardly requires a court of justice. But then, of course, you could be disclosing to the enemy some information which could be really, really serious. So it is appropriate that we have within the system methods and systems of I guess, accountability and justice that are appropriate to the charges laid down. And this bill, and I'm sure that the Select Committee will deal with it appropriately, hopefully both brings a fairer, more modern, up-to-date and more effective justice system and oversight and discipline system to our military services, and then assures young people who might be thinking about a career that actually if I slip up, if something happens, then I'm not going to be clobbered by a system that is overreach, or that I can just get away with anything and nothing's going to happen. So this brings in, you know, and there'll be members on the other side of the House who are more familiar with the system. They may be before the justice system in the military. I'd like to hear those stories. But nonetheless, this should provide a base for fair justice across the military in our country and encourage more young people to take up those opportunities.
Madam Speaker.
I certainly hope that this also tidies up. Now, I don't know how prevalent sexual assault was it not being investigated in the military is, but if that can tidy up that this would be really good, because that is something I do believe does slip under the radar because it's an old boys club.
Yeah.
I mean, put it this way, I think we finally have got a female in the senior leadership of the Defence Force. It's taken since females have been allowed to be in the military since before World War II.
Yeah.
So we finally have got a female who's actually somewhat not far off from the ability to reach the Chief of Defence Force.
Wow.
You know, which is pretty damn scary to think about it.
So it's taken nearly 100 years.
Getting that way, yeah, because many female servicewomen don't be there as long, or they tend to be the more successful partner, because often there's a lot of military husbands and wives, but it tends to be the male that tends to be the one that moves up the ranks a little bit more than the female.
Yeah.
So there's something that also needs to be out there is, you know, will this be able to root out things like sexual assault?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how, you know, do we have instances in our military where we sweep sexual assault under the carpet? Hopefully we don't.
Yeah. Like I saw a fantastic video a few weeks ago about how boys will be boys is not a way to excuse sexual assault.
No,
sex crime,
exactly, no.
right? It is a way to explain stupid behaviour like streaking, like you're jumping off something high and getting hurt because their friend dared them to. You know, dumb shit, not criminal activity.
Yeah, actually, I do remember not quite that particular one there. But I do remember when we did the junior leaders course at Linton, not junior, it was senior leaders, and on the Friday night, there was a whole heap of, like, the military police had to come out because there were just some of them were, like, there were many of them who were just literally playing up and being
ruckus nuisances.
Yeah, pretty much basically doing, you know, they were just straight out misbehaving. So one of the issues they had in Linton was a lot of people, because of the way that their income was structured, they had more money than sense.
Yeah.
And as a result, some of these people were literally like, you had boy racer cars that were probably like ridiculously souped up to the max and all sorts of things, because these people, didn't have to pay for, they had subsidised accommodation, subsidised meals,
Wow.
that sort of thing. And and literally there was like a big drinking fest, and like we were like, because we were on a Sunday to Sunday course, we literally interrupted with our whole trade because all our graduation stuff was going to be done on Saturday. And so on the Friday night, we literally had the military police, literally sirens and everything, and we had a bad night's sleep, and we weren't even intending to do that. But, we were in the same sort of block of barracks that the rest of them were in. Yeah. I know. I mean, that was, I'd probably say that was one of my more negative experiences of being at Linton. But, I mean, that's just some bad apples just misbehaving. That's not everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would really hope that if it is a problem in our military forces, like any of the branches, that I really, really hope that it's not a deeply ingrained problem.
Yeah, I hope it's not as well. Yeah. Let's see what Lawrence Sunan's got to say.
Lawrence Sunan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on behalf of the Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand to speak on the first reading of the Armed Forces Discipline Legislation Amendment Bill. And I think to start with, just to provide some of the context around this bill. Now, this bill is in some part the result of reviews done around the military prosecutions and summary trials. And it does have some significant, quality of life improvements when it comes to the way that court martials, and in particular the way that summary trial system works here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Now, I guess for even greater context, or even just a little bit of history, that when we're looking at the military court, it does run differently from a civilian court, and a lot of the courts that we're seeing here, the civilian justice systems, and what we're seeing here is originally established under the Armed Force Discipline Act 1971, Court Martial Act 2007, and the Court Martial Appeals Act 1952. But unlike the other civilian justice system, we do see that the military justice system applies to armed forces personnel everywhere in the world, not just here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Now, the previous speakers has mentioned some important aspect of this, and I think it is important to note that the discipline that is required of our armed force personnel is more stringent and greater than what we would consider in a civilian setting. And because of that, there is and consistent with that, there is a range of behaviors that can be considered or is considered an offense in the military context. But what we're seeing is that the current system doesn't provide the kind of flexibility, and particularly for low-level offendings as opposed to medium or high-level offendings, which is working as intended, which then meant that the complexity and time needed meant that it's not working effectively, or people are unlikely going to report on it to avoid certain levels of bureaucracy within the existing summary trial system. In saying that, there are some good parts of that, but the Green Party of Aotearoa, New Zealand at this stage cannot support this bill on two particular areas. And again, we are open to potentially changing our position depending on how Select Committee goes along with the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Select Committee. The first aspect of that is, and both of them is to do with the expansion of or scope of existing powers. And the first one is around the expanded scope of search power. Now, as it currently stands, that in terms of the search power, that you can search for what is considered the armed force personnel's, I guess for lack of a better term, work equipments, or even in terms of the military premises. However, this particular bill allows the expansion of the search power to armed force personnel's personal premises, and that could be a vehicle, their personal vehicle, it could be their home, it could be other things, like a computer, such as a personal computer. And the previous speaker, the Honourable Damien O'Connor, has pointed out the importance that there are certain aspects of that that deserves updating in the technology age. Judiciary, it's important that a judicial warrant is still needed. However, there is a lack of, clarity around the impact this will have on the family of personnel and how that expanded scope of power is going to work. So that's one of the first reasons why we have cause for concern around this bill. And the second part is around the extension of the special procedures under the Security Information in Proceedings Act 2022. Now, understanding this is quite a small part of this bill, but it is a significant part. And when the bill Security Information in Proceedings Act 2022 was first passed. The Green Party opposed that. So it is also it's consistent with the way that we operate, that we're not going to be in favor of at this stage of any expanded scope of a bill that we oppose in the first place. And part of that is to do with the concerns around the lack of protection for non-crown entities and the ability for them to have a fair and just trial, particularly around the vagueness of the national security information definition. And this is clause 121, and the fact that it's now extended to court martials. So we'll see what happens in select committee, but as I said, at this stage, the Green Party will not be supporting this bill.
Now that's really saying something.
Yeah, it really is.
You know, was about searching of premises, that sort of thing. And yes, there will be times where people will abuse it, like some cops abuse it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you have things in place where attempts to sit down there and search places don't happen. There's a lot that happens in that part. Yeah.
There is.
But yeah, interesting which bits they sit on.
Yeah,
But that does feel very aligned with the Greens.
it does. It does.
Yeah. Yeah. So we get on to Laura McClure from ACT.
Sure.
Laura McClure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of this bill, and if you just look at how old the current system is, we're talking 1953 for the Court Martial Appeals Act, the Armed Force Discipline Act 1971 and the Court Martial Act 2007. It makes sense that some of these things need to be updated. And looking through the legislation, I think what really stood out to me was the fact that all the mid-tier offences the system's working well for, but that those low-level and more complex cases, especially when you deal with like sexual harassment, for example, the system is not equipped for. And we need to make sure that it is updated and that it's easy to navigate. I'm on the FADAC committee, and I look forward to hearing some submissions. I've listened to some of the concerns from the previous speaker, and you know, like these are important things, and I think it'd be great to get some submissions through. So the submissions hopefully will be opened this week. You'll have about 6 weeks to submit on the bill. I look forward to hearing from you.
Even though I think the speech didn't go long enough, I'm glad that Laura mentioned the bit about sexual assault and sexual harassment.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that really needs to be actually tightened up and basically, you know, get down there. But also the other thing that probably also needs to be looked at is more about same-sex sexual harassment as well, because that exists.
Harassment is harassment.
Yeah, yeah.
The
No.
genders involved does not matter.
No.
Harassment
exactly.
is harassment.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's get to Uncle Andy, who's also tried to be, who should be implemented as Ryan Bridges' so-called scandal, if it is the thing that we have already debunked into sparklers.
Yeah.
Let's look at how old the...
Sorry.
Been a strong supporter of our defence forces, and that means that they need to have the tools in place to do their job and to be kept to doing their job. Our New Zealand Defence Force has a very proud heritage, and they do a great job now in representing our country all around the world as a responsible global citizen. They are representing us in many parts of the world at the moment and doing a sterling job. And this bill is about, in many ways, making sure that they continue to do that, because not all the time does everybody, we've already heard a speech earlier, that not every time is everybody playing by the rules and playing the way that they ought to. And so sometimes you need a way of making sure that people come back to the rules, that there are disciplines in place. And every military service around the world, right throughout history, has always had some way of disciplining, some of them fairly brutally, but we are in a modern age now, so it's a much more civilised approach, but a way of making sure that a military force remains disciplined and focused on the task. The general policy statement and the explanation describes that very well. Strong military discipline is central to ensuring that the New Zealand Defence Force's operational effectiveness. Military discipline's primary purpose is to create a cohesive and effective fighting force, enables the military to function as a unit, etc., etc. So all of these things are recognised as being utterly essential. And what we see in the legislative statement there is that the current arrangements are not fit for purpose in terms of some of the more minor offences. They're not fit for purpose of some of the much more serious offences, which sometimes we see, unfortunately, making news. And so this bill is about trying to bring the disciplinary arrangements into the modern era and to make sure that our defence forces are able to continue to do the job in the professional way and represent this country in the way that we expect them to. And I commend this bill to the House.
Short, sharp, sweet, but literally mentions pretty much what you'd expect. It's a shame Rob Mark's on Parliament because he actually would have been very good on doing that particular speech.
Yeah, he would have been really good for this bill.
Yeah. I wonder if he'll put a submission on it. Ron, if you're watching. Yeah, no, it's yeah. I don't know. It's a really weird one in there. Let's see what Tim van der Mollen's got to say, and then we'll see what Phil Twyford. Go a bit more than usual, but I think we can get a bit more of a substance out of it because Tim van der Mollen might be a seat warmer.
Tim van der Molen.
Here in the first reading of the Armed Forces Discipline Legislation Amendment Bill, I'd like to start by acknowledging and thanking all current and former Defence personnel for their service, both here in New Zealand and around the globe, Madam Speaker, the vast majority of who are exemplary in their service to the uniform. But of course we do have this sort of legislation for those one or two who occasionally fall foul of the rules. And in response to the question from the Honourable Damien O'Connor earlier, no, I was never one of those, so I don't have that first-hand experience. But look, what we're seeking to achieve here, Madam Speaker, as has been outlined by the Minister and others, is effectively an evolution of the system, a modernisation to the legislation that hasn't occurred for about 20 years now, looking to make a couple of key changes that I think are relevant, and one of those being moving the responsibility out of the chain of command to the Director of Military Prosecutions instead, which I think will help address some of those concerns or perceptions around conflict of interest, real or otherwise, which can arise in some of the situations where this legislation might be required. And of course the modernisation of search powers reflecting changes in technology has been pointed to by others as well. Now, strong, effective discipline is critical in a military setting, Madam Speaker. It's a constant part of training exercises for all military personnel. From the simplest tasks through to the more complex, it's always present because it enables that clear, strong focus at a team level to deliver on that operational output that is the critical function of our military. Alongside that, though, we need this legislation to pick up the pieces when necessary, and so modernising it, making it more efficient to enable more time to be focused on those critical tasks is important. And so I'm happy to commend the bill, Madam Speaker, and I look forward to scrutinising it in more detail and to welcoming submissions in the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad we've actually had a retired service person. I don't know which branch Tim van der Molen was part of, but it's useful to actually, have someone who's actually been in there and knows about where the bodies are buried.
That's a terrible way to put it, Sam.
Yep, it is a terrible way of putting it, but it is true. He does actually have an idea of where that would be. Yeah. For what could have been a seat warmer speech that actually wasn't so seat warmer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get to Phil Twyford.
Yeah, I was going to say, I missed part of that because I think I had a power surge.
Right.
That's why
I had one
briefly
where I looked at light went down and yours went at the same time. So both of us had a surge, which is quite interesting because we aren't on the same substation.
No.
So the fact that we both had the surge at the same time probably says that it came from. I wonder if it came from the Hayward substation because I think I'm not sure if our power for the Wellington Park goes via the Hayward substation or not.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah, I think all of it goes to the Hayward substation because the Hayward substation is where the Cook Strait cable meets. Yeah. Okay, let's get on to Phil Twyford.
The Honourable Phil Twyford.
The opening words of the Minister in introducing this debate contained a reference to, I think it was uncertain times or something like that. And it made me think that, it reminded me that while there are often considerable differences between us on the different sides of the House on questions of foreign policy and security, there is, by and large, in this Parliament, a great deal of agreement and consensus about the need for armed forces, the imperative that we invest properly and support, as Damien O'Connor said, the men and women who serve their country in uniform and in some cases put their lives on the line for their country. And In that spirit, I think it's worthy that this bill, which seeks to modernise the justice system for our armed forces, deserves the support of this House. And I'm sure that the Foreign Affairs and Trade and Defence Committee will do a good job of scrutinising the detail of these provisions. I wanted to really just, I think it was Andy Foster who said, made a reference to times gone by when military justice wasn't recognisable in today's, in modern times. And I wanted to recall for the House the case of Archibald Bagster, such a significant figure in New Zealand history, the son of Scottish pioneers in Otago. He was a Christian socialist and a pacifist. And in World War I, he was a conscientious objector. He was sent by the Minister of the day, James Allen, on a troop ship to the front. He thought, Minister James Allen thought that was a good thing. He'd already been in jail in New Zealand. And on the ship, Bagster and 13 others, including 2 of his brothers, were stripped, placed in uniform, locked in a small cabin and abused by officers and volunteer soldiers. This is from the historian David Grant. They were sent to Étaples in France, and they were subjected to, and Bagster suffered what was called field punishment number 1, which was basically a form of crucifixion. They were tied to a post in the open with their hands bound tightly behind their backs and their knees and feet bound for up to 4 hours a day in all weathers. Bagster was beaten, sent to a part of the front that was being heavily shelled. He was denied food, and finally, on the 1st of April 1918, he was taken to a hospital in Boulogne, where he was diagnosed as having a mental weakness and confusional insanity in his determination not to fight. Shortly after, that was the end of Bagster's war, and he was taken to a British hospital for mentally disturbed soldiers and sent home on August 1918. Well, he went on to live a full and satisfying life. He came home, he married Millicent, who was the daughter of one of the founding professors of Canterbury College. And they had children. They returned to, spent most of their latter years in Dunedin. One of Archibald Bagster's sons was James Keir Bagster.
And this is going to come back to the bill?
Of course, Madam Speaker, of course. And James K. Bagster, one of New Zealand's most distinguished poets, wrote this in his poem To My Father in 1947. I have loved you more than my own good because you stand for country pride and gentleness, engraved in forehead lines, veins swollen on the hand, also behind slow speech and quiet eye, the rock of passionate integrity. And I wanted to dedicate this intervention to Archibald Bagster. The book that he wrote, We Will Not Cease, is actually one of the classics of New Zealand literature, and it's a part of our history that is worth recalling. It's modern history, and this bill shows how far the military justice system will have come.
At the end, Mr. Twyford. Dana Kirkpatrick.
Madam Speaker, it's my privilege.
It's a shame that speech ran out of time.
Yeah, it is. He could have done so good with that.
Yeah.
But I understand why he spoke about.
Oh, it needed to be said. It needed to be said. And that was one thing that used to happen in World War One that I would rate barbaric, out of place, and disgusting and horrible. And you wonder why people end up with severe mental health issues and that when you sit down there and torture them in a place of going, well, torture gets compliance.
Yeah.
Where no, it doesn't. It is not something that definitely, it doesn't get compliance. It literally destroys trust.
Exactly, and it destroys the person that it happens to, not just physically, but mentally as well.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Before we move on.
Sorry.
Before we move on, I found it. And a couple of other interesting little tidbits about Tim van der Molen. Right. He worked as a dairy, sheep and beef farmer. He appeared in the 2002 nude calendar made by the Māroa Young Farmers Club. Wow. Hold on. 2002, and he was born in 85. He was
Oh, he's your age.
Not old enough. He was not old enough.
So when he would have appeared in
He was like 15. No, I didn't work that out.
The bring up the meet the candidates and the white kiddo.
Okay, but he was in the New Zealand Territorial Force, which is the long-established reserve component of the New Zealand Army.
Ah, yes.
And at the same time, he was also a volunteer with St. John's Ambulance.
Oh.
There you go.
Interesting. Okay, we will get on to our next bill. That bill is the Health and Safety at Work Amendment Bill, first reading. I think after this, I will be sitting there and telling Stacey she should go on the top of my coffee cart and hold her hands out like that on top of it, because the law might allow me to do that soon. Even that Stacey will tell me over my dead body.
Oh, yeah.
And you would be fully within her right. And I would like to thank Kiwi Pulse for making this footage available, as the parliamentary website does not have this footage yet available. I did have a little chinwag with Greg O'Connor, was it Friday, and yeah, he said he's been known there's been some issues, and he'll pass on that to the powers of be, primarily probably being Jerry Brownlee, and just let him know his feedback. So let's kick off with the first reading of the Health and Safety at Work Amendment Bill.
Honourable Brooke Van Velden.
Madam Speaker, I present a legislative statement on the Health and Safety at Work Amendment Bill.
That legislative statement is published under the authority of the House and can be found on the Parliament website. Honourable Brooke Van Velden.
Madam Speaker, I move that the Health and Safety at Work Amendment Bill be now read a first time. I nominate the Education and Workforce Committee to consider the bill. At the appropriate time, I intend to move that the bill be reported to the House by 13 June 2026. Madam Speaker, New Zealand's rates of work-related deaths, serious injuries and illness remains unacceptably high. At the same time, many businesses, particularly small businesses, have said they struggle to understand what is required of them and where they should focus their health and safety efforts. In 2024, I travelled the country on a health and safety roadshow to find out what the big issues were. Feedback was clear. Confusion and a fear of getting it wrong have contributed to a culture of over-compliance that has not delivered better safety outcomes. The bill responds directly to that challenge. It will address long-standing concerns about complexity, uncertainty and over-compliance, and contribute to economic growth by cutting red tape and reducing unnecessary costs, particularly for small business. The bill amends the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015, the WorkSafe New Zealand Act 2013, and the Health and Safety at Work General Risk and Workplace Management Regulations 2016. It will amend the purposes of the Health and Safety at Work Act so that its main purpose is to prioritise the critical risks arising from work. At the same time, the Act's purposes now expressly include providing certainty to business about the scope of their obligations to comply with the Act. These changes will direct effort and resources towards managing the risks that cause serious harm, rather than paperwork and minor or peripheral issues. These critical risks will be defined as hazards regulated under specified health and safety regulations as set out in a new Schedule 1A. They will also include hazards of any kind that are likely to result in death, notifiable injury or illness, notifiable incidents, or occupational diseases. This approach ensures that duty holders can clearly identify the risks that demand the greatest attention. A key feature of the bill is the relief it provides to small businesses. They will be required to comply with core health and safety duties only in relation to critical risks, while continuing to meet worker welfare obligations in full.
Sorry for the ads.
The time and cost of dealing with lots of small risks quickly adds up, particularly the time spent on reporting. And I've heard directly that the fear of not having documented every risk weighs heavily on small businesses. We can trust them to use their judgment without needing additional paperwork or formal systems for every minor issue. Small businesses will be defined through amending the Act's concept of person conducting a business or undertaking, or PCBU. The new term small PCBU will cover businesses that have fewer than 20 workers for at least 9 months of the year. For PCBUs that are not small, The bill maintains the obligation to manage all risks, but requires them to prioritise critical risks over other risks. Another important aspect of this bill is the strengthening of approved codes of practice, or ACOPs for short, into safe harbours, meaning that if a business adds in accordance with an ACOP for a specific risk, they have complied with the relevant duty. This will give businesses and workers confidence that they've met their responsibilities while preserving flexibility by allowing alternative ways of complying. The bill also enables worker, employer or sector representatives to develop and submit draft ACOPs to the regulator. The responsible minister still decides whether an ACOP should be approved. In another change, the bill will clarify duties in relation to recreational use of land. Landowners or managers who permit recreational activity on their land that are not part of their business or undertaking will not owe health and safety duties to those recreational users, unless the landowner has work occurring in the same place at the same time. This change responds to concerns raised by landowners and recreational groups alike, and should encourage greater access to both public and private land across our beautiful country. The bill also clarifies the duty of officers. The officer duty is intended to be a governance duty, requiring officers to exercise due diligence to ensure that a PCBU meets its health and safety obligations. Over time, uncertainty has developed about the scope of that duty, particularly where officers also have other roles, such as being the chief executive. The bill responds by confirming that an officer's duty applies to governance only, no matter if they have another role. It also clarifies what is required to meet the due diligence standard, providing greater certainty for officers by rewriting the due diligence steps as an exhaustive list. The bill also addresses several areas where the current law has created some uncertainty or overlap. Where a person complies with relevant requirements under another enactment that manages the same health and safety risk, they will not have to do more under the Health and Safety at Work Act. However, they must continue to comply with any specific health and safety regulations relating to that risk. This reinforces that the Act is not intended to duplicate or override other regulatory regimes. Relatedly, the bill clarifies duties for PCBUs in relation to seismic risks under the Building Act. If a PCBU manages or controls a workplace that includes the whole or part of a building, and they are not in breach of obligations imposed by the Building Act, the Health and Safety at Work Act will not require the PCBU to take any additional action in relation to seismic risk affecting the building. This provides certainty and avoids duplication, particularly in light of ongoing reforms in the building system. Finally, the bill prioritises the existing functions of WorkSafe New Zealand, Maritime New Zealand and the Civil Aviation Authority. This enables regulators to prioritise guidance, advice and targeted enforcement, directing resources to activities that deliver the greatest impact rather than spreading effort across a broad and unfocused set of functions. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, this bill is a practical and targeted reform of our health and safety laws. It focuses on what matters most: managing critical risks. It reduces unnecessary compliance costs, particularly for small business, and it provides greater clarity and confidence for workers and businesses. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I commend this bill to the House.
I like what Jason's got on here. Oh, thanks, you read my mind.
Yep.
Like, the way she's described that is the old Osh stories from when her parents were young workers before Brooke was born.
Mm-hmm.
Our systems have moved on.
I need to know what she means by multiple ways to comply. Like, if you don't have this thing in place, it's okay, you can have this thing and it's safe enough?
I don't know. Does that mean if you have a 3-point seatbelt across you, you don't also need an ejector seat in the event of a crash? Yes, okay, that makes a bit of sense. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know. If you have a logbook for driving, you don't need a second set of paperwork for driving restricting hours if you've got a truck driver's logbook. I wonder if it could be something like that, because there are some organisations that have, like, you've got to fill out multiple paperwork for the different departments of that just to do the same job.
Yeah.
I know, I think it was when Gordy worked for Mana coach, he had to fill out a logbook for driving because that's what the Act required for driving. He had to fill out a second set of book for payroll and another set of book for something else. When reality land is, it could have all been done off the logbook.
It really could.
I don't know. Is that what she's trying to solve?
Yeah.
Even that employee-owned logbooks have to be in triplicate.
Yeah. What's the? I know that you'll know this. What's the mandatory rest period for a truck driver?
5.5 hours.
5.5.
Yep.
Over after driving how far? How long? How many hours?
No. So you working time of 5.5 hours. You have to have mandatory half an hour break, and you can and if you do another and you can drive up to 13 hours a day across 14 hours. And then once you hit the 14-hour mark, you have to have a mandatory 10-hour rest break.
Right.
Now, we don't have this in New Zealand, but in the United States, the trucks literally stop in the middle of the road.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have that in New Zealand. Thank goodness we don't have that in New Zealand.
I actually follow a truckie on TikTok. His stories are great.
No, thank goodness we don't have that, because in the United States, that system doesn't take into account of emergency extensions. So if you not if you break down, but you get stuck in an accident, and you're stuck there, you can do what is called an unauthorized extension. So that would be so this happened to Muhammad a couple of weeks back. There was an accident south of Taihape, and he was stuck there 2.5 hours. So he would have had an unauthorized extension in his logbook to get that. So he couldn't, like, he basically we're stuck there, and it showed me the pictures. He was within 1 kilometre of the crash. And I said, turn around. I said, do you want to drive up to Wairau, over to Oakuni and down the Paraparas? He goes, oh. I said, by the time they'll probably open up the road, he goes, there's no local road to go for it. Don't bother wasting your time, they're gravel.
Yeah.
And I said, if there was an alternative road, I would have told you which one you could drive down. He said, it's a shame you're not, 30 kilometres down the road, because if you could do that, you could turn off at Vinegar Hill. Yeah, he tends to ask me for when the accidents are on the alternative routes, because I actually know which roads he could drive down and which roads he can't. Whereas don't leave it to Motion, because Motion will sit down there and have him going up. What do you call it? What's a nice narrow road? Oh, the one you used to live down near Northland. That's one way.
Oh Lord. Garden Road?
Motion would suggest him to sit there and take a truck down that. I took Motion's ute done that once and was like, whoa, no, not ever again. Because his ute was way wider than the APV.
No.
Okay, here's the telltale sign. Let's get off to our next speaker, which is someone in Labour, but I don't know who.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Honourable Jan Tinetti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Labour joins leading health and safety professionals who have already expressed their concern over this bill earlier this week. This bill, despite its intentions, and I do acknowledge the intentions of it, but this bill risks taking New Zealand's health and safety at work area and landscape better. This comes at a time when protecting our workers should be absolutely paramount. But this bill, Madam Speaker, narrows our focus on health and safety. It just puts our workers far more at risk than what we've seen in a long, long time. One of the central premises of this bill, Madam Speaker, is the attempt to define and codify a critical risk. Now, on the surface, that might seem sensible. Mature organisations already focus on the risks that could kill or permanently injure workers. But this bill doesn't simply encourage the focus. It tries to legislate it in a way that will burden employers, confuse our duty holders, and this is the ironic part, it has the very real potential of making workplaces less safe. An employer under this law, Madam Speaker, would have to wade through over 60 listed risks, cross-referencing multiple regulations, acts and schedules to determine what is critical. They would have to assess whether each risk is likely to cause death or injury, though the bill never actually explains what likely means. It is likely in a week? Is it a month? Is it the entirety of the working life of that particular employee? And that's a real concern. because the lack of clarity could lead to inconsistency, uncertainty and endless legal debate. This could be caught up in courts and held up in courts for a long, long time. It also, Madam Speaker, makes matters worse because two of the most common and costly causes of workplace harm, musculoskeletal injuries and psychological harm, are excluded altogether. And yet this makes up more than half of ACC's workplace injury costs. So deliberately omitting them, the bill turns its back on real-world harm that New Zealand workers are experiencing every single day. It does not take that into account at all. Worse still, the bill extends exemptions to duties relating to supply and manufacture of goods. That's the small businesses that we're talking about here, the fewer than 20 workers that the Minister talked about. But this is really a big part of this. It extends that exemption to duties relating to supply and manufacture of goods and substances used in workplaces. In other words, a small supplier could provide less safe products than a larger competitor, created an incentive to stay small and sidestep higher safety standards. And that's a recipe for a race to the bottom in workplace safety, and something no responsible government should ever consider. There's also the question, and the Minister addressed this, but the question still stays, of how this bill sits alongside other laws. The proposed new Section 35 would make compliance with any other regulatory regime enough to meet a workplace's health and safety obligations. That might sound tidy, but it means that over 4,000 other acts and regulations could take precedence over our health and safety laws. Take one example. The Minimum Wage Act regulates working hours. If an employer complies with that act, they could claim they have no additional responsibility or duty under the Health and Safety at Work Act to manage fatigue from long hours. Think of all the other acts that come into play here. It is seriously concerning. Madam Speaker, there are parts of the bill that are useful, but some of those parts seem like they've been botched in drafting. Our Health and Safety at Work Act was landmark. We cannot support this change to it. The lives and well-being of New Zealand workers are far too important.
That's actually a good point there, that what Jan has actually brought up. Sorry, was it YouTube has decided to play ads at the end of Jan's speech? Great timing.
That was good timing.
Yeah, but that can also play around with Minimum Wage Act. But I'm paying minimum wage, so does it matter the fact that I'm getting them to work 70 hours a week driving a Class 2 truck? Like something like that, because that's one industry that is very common for literally pushing the limits of the laws, is the heavy truck driving industry. And it is more prevalent in areas where you don't have to logbook, which is under when you're less than 50 k's from base and you're in a Class 2 configuration. So you might remember at Winslow Wairarapa, me driving Dad's truck around the block with a coffee cart behind it. Once put the coffee cart behind it, it was Class 2 configuration. Yep. Oh, yes. Yeah. Little things like that. Things that just slip under the radar because, that could circumvent some of those things. But I mean, also, what is this going to do when someone questions health and safety? Oh, Brooke sit there and gave me an exemption?
Yeah.
That's something that really sits there and does it. Yeah, so who knows? I don't know. It's really shining a red flag when, the fact that Labor's immediately they're not supporting it, that means it's likely to be a bad bill. But 9 times out of 10, a bill that comes out of ACT literally doesn't usually have common sense attached to it.
No.
It's such a shame. Why can't we have Sean Rush as the Minister of Labour? He might actually use more common sense. Yeah. Okay, let's see who our mystery green person is.
Davidson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on behalf of the Green Party to speak to the Health and Safety at Work Amendment Bill. The Green Party opposes this bill. The New Zealand Institute of Safety Management released a statement 2 days ago, and the second line puts it very simply. This new bill will not improve workplace safety. Mike Osmond, the spokesperson for the New Zealand Institute of Safety Management, goes on to say, and I quote, "We are the experts who work every day helping businesses make their workplaces safer. This bill will not help that," end quote. Now, We've just heard a couple of hours ago from the Minister of Workplace Relations and Safety, when asked about the current legislation she is currently progressing, that this will be a win for businesses and workers. That's right, a win for workers. This bill is definitely not a win for workers. This bill will actually cause more harm to our workers. We had on the order paper today the second reading of the online casino gambling bill, a bill that, guess what, also will cause more harm to people. So what we have a government that is happy to introduce legislation that will create harm in our communities and harm in the workplace. But we need to ensure that we have high health and safety standards so people who go to work, no matter where that is, no matter what they do, come home safely. This bill will establish a two-tier system where small businesses have a lower set of obligations than larger employees, changing interactions with other acts and focusing health and safety management on so-called critical risks. This bill is intended to reduce compliance costs to businesses, increase certainty for them, and support continued reductions and incidents of workplace fatalities and health and safety incidents. However, when, Madam Speaker, you listen to the experts, it will not do that. It will add confusion, add compliance costs, and increase harm in the workplace. This bill risks reducing high workplace health and safety standards, especially for small businesses, which is where many workplace injuries occur, as over 90% of New Zealand businesses are small and likely to have their duties reduced. Creating legislation that will increase harm in the workplace will also see a flow-on of increased costs to the government when ACC claims are increased. The workplaces and types of injuries where the Minister is trying to relax health and safety compliances are the workplaces and injuries where most of them occur, making up 75% of ACC's work injury costs. Important issues like mental health and workload management are very unlikely to be captured by the new focus on critical risks, which will mean that workers in small organisations are at greater risk of these harms. Many workplaces with relatively high profile may also be shifted into the lower duty small business category, particularly seasonal workers, which may have dozens to hundreds of employees for short periods of time. Additionally, the definition of critical risk is unlikely to lead to a greater certainty for employers. The bill has a huge number of examples trying to define this, demonstrating that the wording itself is unclear and will not support good decision making by an employer. This bill also creates more risk of harm to Māori and Pacific workers. Māori are overrepresented in workplace injury statistics and also work more frequently at high-risk sectors, with data showing that 70% of those submitting workplace injury claims within the sectors identify as Māori. Māori and Pacific workers are also more likely to work in shift work jobs and to work more than 50 hours a week than any other ethnic group. Additionally, they're exposed to noise, hot conditions and/or cold and damp conditions in their workplaces. These are all risks for health and safety issues. The health and safety professionals and sector groups, as well as union, have come out against this bill. I'd like to finish once again by quoting Mike Cosman from the New Zealand Institute of Safety Management. The cost of workplace harm is considerably... Scrap that. These changes are likely to increase harm to workers, families, businesses, communities, along with the cost blowouts for the government, books and ACC and health...
Members' time has expired. Thank you. Carl Bates.
Something else that also should actually be brought up about that is if your health and safety standards drop, your insurance risk goes up.
Oh, wow.
You know, so that might increase insurance premiums, both with ACC and with non-ACC insurance.
Do you think that's something that Brooke took into account?
Oh no, Brooke wouldn't sit there and take into that. God, if she sat there and did, she might sit there and think a bit different. I mean, put it this way, Brooke, basically the way Brooke sits there and acts, she'll be the party that will sit there and defend to not have to wear seatbelts. Yeah, I know. Like you think about that, like if that was not in there, I mean, she might sit there and say drink driving laws might be a nice to have rather than an essential factual part of reality. Yeah.
I mean, they've proven time and again that they're not the brightest cookies in the bunch.
No, that's so true. That's so true. And they don't tend to ask the brightest questions. They seem to select committees usually ask talking points. The only one who doesn't from experience is Todd Stevenson.
Huh.
You know, but hey, that's why he was the headhunter politician out of Australia.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, Cal Bates, or as if you remember the ASBN's Ghostling Sun.
Madam Speaker, the National-led government is building the future by reforming health and safety laws to lessen the cost and the burden of compliance on business. Madam Speaker, through the Select Committee process, which I'm looking forward to participating in and actually listening to businesses and manufacturers and people who use our health and safety laws every day, unlike the opposition who simply, as I often say in this House, Madam Speaker, want to rant and rave and not actually solve the problem. So to those small, medium businesses, to manufacturers, to people who use health and safety every day, tourism, all of those sectors of our economy that we need to grow in order to grow the prosperity of this country, Madam Speaker, I invite them to submit, to share how they see this act, this bill improving or not the challenges they face when it comes to health and safety, so that we can ensure we fix health and safety in this country, Madam Speaker, because right now there's one thing that we can all agree on: it's not working.
Oh, very good.
But seat warmer.
Yeah.
I don't know how we sit there and judge. I mean, it did sound a bit vibrant. If we ignore what he said, we just go to the tone. It's vibrant. Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I'm not contributing much tonight.
I don't think there is any freaking thing to contribute. I mean, I'm not exactly impressed with Cal Bates' speech, but I mean, well, I don't know, it's a bit better than highly I recommend this bill to the House.
Well, this is true.
You know, at least it's not one of those speeches, because, I mean, they do tend to typically happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what looks like Mark Patterson has just stood up.
Honourable Mark Patterson.
Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to add our support to this Health and Safety at Work Amendment Bill. This is a very important piece of legislation. Every worker deserves to go home uninjured or go home full stop. We do know that too many of our people are injured or worse, killed at work. The current system is not delivering the outcomes that we would want. If you look at our international comparisons in place of workplace injuries or deaths, we are far towards the top of those, in a bad way, of those statistics. So the current system, the 2015 system, is not working, so it's a good opportunity for us to have a good look at this. I will note that we've heard some feedback coming in, but the Minister, to her credit, did engage quite heavily at the start of this process, went around a number of meetings with business and practitioners to get the feedback, which has guided the drafting of this bill. The key themes and focuses on this bill is really about the critical risk, the really death or serious injury part of it. So I think at first glance that's a really sensible thing to do. We do have to be careful we don't send a signal, because I think culture matters too in this. If you walk past the small risks, sometimes that's a culture thing that can work its way into a workplace culture that can lead to the big things happening. So we've got to be careful we don't send a signal that that's what we're looking to do, but we do think that if workplace and businesses are really focusing on those key risks where people are getting injured, particularly in our primary industries. I might say there's way too many of our people getting killed or injured. Actually, a sensible amendment that we do support is the one around recreational land users, or people, Madam Speaker, as you would know, people coming onto your farm and mine and Grant McCullum's, sorting out that liability system. So we actually, we don't go out there to put people at risk, and we don't want to put people coming off onto rural property. So we think that's a sensible move. But the key themes, of course, are focusing on that critical risk, the limiting compliance and cost when necessary. We know that our productivity needs to lift in this country, so by focusing on those important aspects, hopefully limiting compliance and cost, the pivot from WorkSafe towards, being more proactive and being seen as someone an organisation that's guiding rather than one that's perceived as being there for enforcement and punishment. I think that is a welcome change of culture, actually. But this is, as I said at the start of this reading, this is an important bill. Hundreds of thousands, millions of New Zealanders go to work every day. They deserve to be protected. They deserve to be in safe workplaces. So this will be an important select committee. There's a lot of detail in it, and I think it's important that we do listen very carefully to the feedback that's coming back on the ground, because the intent, and I'm sure whatever political party we're representing here today, the intent of what we're trying to get out of this is safer workplaces for Kiwis. So New Zealand First support this bill through to select committee. Thank you.
Now that's actually interesting. He has just said to select committee.
Yeah. I don't think anybody else has mentioned select committee yet.
No, but it might actually mean that the fact that New Zealand First may just go, yeah, sorry, no, it's not up to the job. Sorry, we're not supporting it past second reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that it does partially imply that.
Well, it's weird. He said we support this bill, right? But then he goes, this is the part that we support?
Yeah. Yeah, so support it to select committee, which is a common practice that happens in many parties, is they'll support a bill to select committee so it can actually go through that process, but they might not support it at second reading. I mean, a great example is that was Treaty Principles Bill.
Yeah.
Which was just like, I mean, that was just an absolute waste of money, that one.
Oh, that was a waste of everything.
Yeah.
Except for the way that it pulled New Zealand together.
Yeah. Yes. No, David Seymour did help that. Thank you, David. Yep. Okay, let's I think it's Te Pāti Māori next. Who's our mystery speaker?
Orini Kaipara.
E te pika. While this bill may be the most significant reform to our country's workplace health and safety system since the introduction of the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015, it does fail to cover the fundamentals that prioritise workers' rights instead of business bottom lines. Health and safety regulation is not red tape bureaucracy, nor should it ever be treated that way. Strong health and safety laws create the conditions for workers and employers to agree on the systems and procedures needed to keep people healthy and safe at work, and that should be our shared goal. Right. Instead, this bill takes us in the opposite direction. It is a heartless piece of legislation, Madam Speaker, with the Minister effectively signalling that harming workers is acceptable. This marks a major departure from the long-standing consensus that every worker deserves to return home safely and healthy. The bill itself is confusing, Madam Speaker, and it will impose significant compliance burdens, creating uncertainty for both employers and workers about how to keep workplaces safe. It establishes a two-tier system of health and safety protection that effectively gives small businesses permission to expose workers to greater risk. How? Well, small businesses with fewer than 20 workers will be exempt from most health and safety obligations beyond critical risk, such as access to water and even to toilets. And this government reckons it's fixing the basics. Clearly, basic human rights and workers' rights aren't important basics for this government. Research consistently shows that small and medium-sized businesses are generally less safer than larger ones, so weakening their health and safety duties is likely to make the situation even worse. It's a clear case of creating another scenario where the ambulance waits at the bottom of the hill, set up to solve a problem instead of prevention. That's gambling with real lives, Madam Speaker, which means it threatens whānau and it is threatening whakapapa. The bill requires businesses to judge whether death or serious injury is likely. With no criteria provided, this is a highly subjective analysis. It's dangerous. The NZCTU states it is known that perceptions about the likelihood and severity of harm differs widely between bosses and workers actually doing the mahi. Worse off, there is explicitly no repercussions for any business that fails to prioritise critical risk. WorkSafe New Zealand says Māori workers experience a rate of serious injury at work that is on average 31% higher than non-Māori across all industries and sectors. On average, there are between 750 and 900 work-related health deaths reported per year here in Aotearoa. Injuries requiring more than a week off work hit well over 37,000 in the year from July 2024 to June 2025. In 2024 alone, 70 New Zealanders were killed on the job. Pike River, never forget Pike River. 29 souls were lost. Pike River exposed just how weak our health and safety system is. Does this bill meet the needs of whānau and communities who continue to suffer from those and other tragic workplace incidents? This amendment bill rewinds progress made in the wake of Pike River, taking us in precisely the opposite direction we should be going in. Te Pāti Māori has made it very clear that we stand with workers and we stand to protect the rights of workers. That includes Māori and vulnerable communities often exploited by lawmakers and in particular this government who clearly does not care for the safety of our people, the well-being of our whānau and the future of all our mokopuna. On behalf of Tāmaki Makaurau and Te Pāti Māori, we do not support this bill.
Dr Vanessa Wiening.
It's a bit like, what do you call it, taking out the seat belts and the airbags in the car. And then saying that it's less compliant. No, less compliance required.
Yes.
You know, I mean,
It's like taking out the stairs and saying that the elevator's fine during a building fire.
Yeah, or taking away the wheelchair ramp outside and calling it accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I like that one. Yeah, taking out the stairs. Well, yeah, I can picture that. Yeah, no, actually, that's interesting because I remember that was being brought up with Lynn when she was looking at transferring. The council wouldn't put her into one particular building was because of the fact that she could move quickly in the event of an emergency, and so it was better to put her on the bottom floor of a non-elevated building in the flat than it would be to put her on a building that had an elevator in it. In the event of a fire, she would take way longer to get out. Yeah. Yeah, interesting the sorts of things that have to be looked at for when housing people with mobility needs.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care how broken on any given day I am taking those stairs.
Well, in the event of a fire.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, if you get the right one, Ray could carry you down. Or would he collapse?
Depends how bloated I am on any given day, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Him and Bailey can work together, it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, let's see who's Vanessa Wiening. We've already heard her name.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This is the first reading of the Health and Safety at Work Amendment Bill, and as we can see across the House, there's going to be some very robust debate. This democratic process that we go through in the Select Committee will be undertaken with the utmost studiousness, and we will put all of our combined intellect across the House into this to make sure that when this bill comes back, that we actually are fixing the basics so that we can build the future, because the fundamental truth is that it is a basic requirement to be safe at work. It's absolutely, that is not at issue here, and I commend the bill to the House.
Camilla Bella.
I wonder how many workplace injuries Dr. Vanessa Wiening had to sit there and deal with as a general practitioner. How many times has she had to sit down there and stitch up people for minor workplace injuries? Yeah. How often did she have to do it on the battlefield? Because I do believe she did do military service at some point.
No idea.
Yeah. And
What
then
was
like
her
what
name?
cyber... Sorry?
What was her name again?
Dr. Vanessa Wiening.
Wingett.
Wiening.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah, formerly a Labour Party member who later became a national member who won the seat of Banks Peninsula.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one who, in a recent one where there was Brock Van Velden Select Committee meeting that we covered recently with Detective Rogers, completely bumbled her question about self-employed contractors, which were relevant to the GP field, that most GPs that work for a clinic are classified as self-employed contractors kind of near by default instead of salary or wage workers.
Yeah, she was an Army medical officer, and served nearly 22 years between New Zealand Army and Territorial Force.
Yep. Yeah. How the hell did she end up from Labour to National? But, maybe she was so desperate to become an MP.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, let's see who's after Vanessa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to take a call on this Health and Safety at Work Amendment Bill, which was introduced this week and tabled at the end of last week. Madam Speaker, it's important to remember the context of where the health and safety amendments that this particular bill changes came in, and that was done after the terrible tragedy at Pike River, which has already been mentioned. 29 New Zealanders lost a very, very dark day for New Zealand, and the national government at that time, to its credit, put in place the Health and Safety at Work Amendment Bill. And, Madam Speaker, by and large, that bill is seen as, even at 10 years old as it was last year, seen as bringing in essentially an adequate and workable framework to addressing health and safety in New Zealand. The bill itself, and people have said, and it's definitely something that I think everyone in this House would agree, that New Zealand has an absolutely abysmal record on health and safety, and there is more we need to do. But, Madam Speaker, what we need to do is not what is in this bill. And that is reflected by the fact that when this bill and these proposals that this Minister came out with, there was a lot of concern within the health and safety community, not just from trade unions, but also from businesses and from organisations that specialise in health and safety. Their collective view, and it is rare to find a collective view in workplace matters across those groups, was that the Health and Safety at Work Act was generally fine. It just needed to be bolstered through increasing support for WorkSafe, which is a message which has been mentioned in this House during this reading as well, and also in terms of specific industries to be able to be supported to do what they need to do in order to limit the accidents that they have at work. This bill, the Minister wanted to do this bill, and it was no one else wanted this bill in this way. And I think that what we've got before us is not perhaps the worst option out of all of the options that she was initially looking at, but there certainly are some very, very concerning aspects to it. And one of them is the focus on critical injury above all else. And there are a few reasons why this is problematic. Madam Speaker, today at lunchtime I went to the tailor to get my trousers tailored because the hem had come down. And when I went in there, one of the tailors who was out the back was sewing and sewed through his finger on his sewing machine, and there was blood everywhere. And this is a workplace accident that is very much at the forefront of my mind as we're discussing this. It would not be considered a critical accident because it is not something that is likely to threaten this worker's life, but it is still a terrible incident to have occurred at work and something that all businesses need to be focused on ensuring does not happen. This bill takes the focus away from injuries that are not critical or considered life-threatening. And in addition to this, one of the major objectives that this bill has is the removal of red tape or regulation that is deemed unnecessary. Unfortunately, with the imposition of critical injury as the main focus for all types of businesses, including small businesses, a significant amount of work is going to have to go in, and experts say money spent towards assessing what is a critical risk. And this means that they're going to have to spend money on getting probably external people to come in and say, are there any critical risks available? Are there any critical risks currently in our workplace? And they're going to have to get very, very clear advice on that. I do disagree, and I do think if you are focused on health, if New Zealand wants to be focused on health and safety, we need to not have a situation where one of the types of industries that do tend to have a lot of injuries, smaller businesses or smaller PCBUs as they're referred to in this Act, have different standards from larger companies. Everyone deserves to go to work and come home and be safe and not injured. Everyone, no matter if they work for a small employer or a big employer. And this Act changes that. So I think this is a step backwards for health and safety, and I think that's a shame because I think there is actually bipartisan support for a rigorous, sensible, pragmatic health and safety regime. I think there's agreement from unions, I think there's agreement from businesses, I think there's agreement from health and safety practitioners on what that should be. Unfortunately, what is included in this bill is not that and will actually take New Zealand backwards in respect of health and safety, so I cannot support it.
Grant McCullum.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Don't worry, Dodgy Grant, we're not covering you tonight.
What?
Oh, Dodgy Grant. Oh, fuck. No, he comes, over the Crime Theft by Employer Amendment Bill, he came across as wanted the law to be in such a way that literally, protected the worst kind of employers in the world. So he gives the vibe in some of his speeches that he's a dodgy business person.
Right.
Yeah, so he's been given the nickname Dodgy Grant from us.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's well, you know how we've got different names. We've got Uncle Andy for Andy Foster. He's Dodgy Grant. I actually had to tell my dad that, and my dad, who's also a Grant, he goes, he said that was actually quite funny that because we got our names here like different MPs, and there's Dodgy Grant, Uncle Andy. I'm trying to think, what other names do we have for our MPs out there? God, I can't. Oh heck. We've got a lot. We've got some. They need to come up when they happen. You know. Yeah. Well, I think it's time for us to call it a show.
Yeah, it is. It is just after 10 o'clock.
Yes. If you want to help keep me employed, please order at Morsham's.
Yeah.
Now, I think the bills, because I actually read what is in here. Arms bill is the first one that I can actually in the list of things up there. Who can go in there? Okay. If you'd like to sit down there and put in a submission on the arms bill, such as have the suggestion of what my father has sat there and suggested, by having the New Zealand SIS to become the regulator for firearms instead of the New Zealand Police, please get your submissions in by February the 16th tomorrow. Feel free to mention the fact that the SIS is there. They're in charge. Our lovely, terrorist in Christchurch probably wouldn't have got a gun licence. Now, if you would like to sit down there and object to Sonny be able to sit down there and citizens arresting you when you are falsely accused of stealing stuff from his dairy, please make sure you put in your bill tomorrow to sit there and say that you object to citizens arrest, or you state that people should actually, be trained. The building earthquake-prone building amendment bill also closes tomorrow. God, that's a lot that's happening tomorrow.
Apparently so.
Oh, don't have to do this bill tomorrow. You've got until Friday. The infrastructure funding and financing amendment bill. And Stacey, very important for you, for me, for Nick, for Laura, the inquiry into the 2025 local body elections.
Yeah, well, like I said, when you've got it ready, send me the draft and I'll
Oh God, I'm going to have a lot of fun tomorrow along with video editing.
I know.
Yep. So yes, those are the bills that are going to be out there if you want to get your submissions in. We'll look forward to it. We encourage everyone to sit there and get their submissions in to make sure they sit there and make changes to laws. And also sit down there, if you do put one on the arms bill, make sure you also support the fact that it's going to be introducing a progressive licensing system for firearm users. So when you come in, you can't sit there and get the maximum license straight off first cam off the rank. I will be putting in that submission is to also state that unless you have gone through the formal process of New Zealand residency or citizenship, you should not be allowed to get a gun license.
Yeah.
And that would also apply to Australians coming from overseas. And I also wonder if our history should delve into like a peer endorsement, where it goes through your whole history from basically when you've been able to be charged criminally as an adult. You know, to make sure that you're not a kiddie fiddler or something like that. But the same type of checks should be done on a gun license. There are some things about temporary and permanent suspensions, which I do think are good, is the fact that a temporary suspension can be put in for a period of 3 months and then 12 months rather than a temporary suspension that becomes permanent. Under the current act, it lasts for 10 years. The new one actually allows it to be reassessed in between. That I do think is actually probably a good thing. You know, have better systems that are in place. And just for those who want to know, in order to get a gun license, just like when you go to get a truck driver's license, you have to go get a medical.
Yeah.
Yep. So yes, it's not like you can just walk in and apply for a gun license. You do actually have to see a doctor. And that probably also helps with the fact that if you have permanent residency or citizenship, you're likely to be enrolled with a GP. Whereas if you're a short-term work visa holder, you're not likely to be.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and I like what Jess said. Have a renewal station 1 every 5 years. Yeah, that's probably a good idea, especially for probationary ones. For liquor licenses, you get a 1 year probationary license, then a 3 year liquor license. If you become a force officer, you are an acting officer for the first 12 months before you get to permanently keep your commission. So that's a defence force thing as well. So yeah, that's in cadets. Yes, that every time we had someone who graduated from under officer to a more senior rank, they were acting pilot officer for the first 12 months.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And thanks for that comment there, Jason. And thank you for doing that. And thank you for Kiwi Skirt earlier on in the show, moderating in there. We do also have our poll on the scandals. 12% feel the Moral Point sludge part failure being linked to a cycle waste overspend scandal is at 12%. And 88% think it's a used pack of sparklers with no spark. Yeah. Yes, I'm going to have a lot of fun with the editing that goes with these videos.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, and if you are in Wellington, there has been a bit of a change. I'll just check on what's Julie and Genta. Was it my local MP? It's not your one.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say our local MP, but I can't actually say that for you because you don't actually live in my electorate.
No.
Okay, the event has changed venues. So if I'll flick it into this side so I can actually do that. So the venue location has changed for the Moral Point, crisis meeting. It is now going to be at St Patrick's College at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. And also, if you're wondering, sorry, I won't be making that meeting. As Treasurer of Newtown Residents Association, I'll be supporting the Newtown Residents Association at 7:30. So that is in there. And actually, it's quite interesting. So when I was dealing with the coffee cart today, this is something that happened. The church, who normally does their baptisms in Lowell Bay, had to do their baptisms in the Newtown School swimming pool because you can't swim at Lowell Bay at the moment. So
do they do it in the ocean normally?
For Thomas's, yes.
Oh wow! Okay, so what they?
They go to Lowell Bay. Yeah, they sat there and said to me, we're going to be doing a baptism at this point. So if can you hold off not taking the coffee cup in and out when that happens? Oh yeah, that's fine, no problem. And then they said, would you like to come and watch it? So I watched it. I'm thinking lucky people to get more swimming pool doing it.
Wow. Yeah.
And another random little bit of housekeeping that's irrelevant not relevant. It's a weird one. Fabian Society this Thursday will be having their live stream. At about when will we see action on climate change? So that is happening this Thursday at 6 p.m. So if you'd like to sit there and support that. Cool, that's a lot of end of show housekeeping.
It is. Well, actually, one more thing I want to add. Guys, if you're in a region that is currently under a local state of emergency, please be prepared, be ready to go. If you're just getting the massive winds and rains like we are in the Wellington region, please still stay safe, be careful. Look after your pets, your loved ones, all of that sort of stuff. Don't go out and do dumb shit. Okay, we are better than that, guys. Come on.
Yes, please. We are. Yes, and thank goodness I don't have to do the papers tomorrow morning.
Yeah. But wherever you are, stay safe, look after yourselves, batten down the hatches.
Yep.
Make sure you keep up with your local alerts and stuff.
Yes.
Please.
And we will see you all back here next Sunday for more from the Order Paper podcast.
Ciao.
See ya.
Thank you for watching the Order Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. From our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa, New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel,